Today we are discussing the NOLA 5, 5 Women 5 Years Later. Earlier in the show we heard from Lori, and she described her horrendous experience while she was incarcerated during Hurricane Katrina. Now we're going to hear from Lori once again, and she's going to talk about her 27-year struggle with substance abuse.
When I was a kid, I grew up in the ninth ward, well, the 8th and the 9th ward. I'm the oldest of 3 children. My brothers are identical twins, right? And they're the only boys of our generation that can carry on the chef name, so they always were treated a lot better than I was as a young child. Like, I was left home and they would be going on vacation. So at an early age, I just got a rebellious spirit. I guess sometimes you rebel out of hurt and pain. And I came from a dysfunctional family. My mom was really emotional, and my dad, he was abusive. He physically abused me and my brothers, so I left home. By the time I was 12, I don't think I ever lived with my parents too much anymore. I went to the convent of the Good Shepherds, and I stayed there with the sisters for a year, and I wish I could have stayed there forever. I should have stayed, but I ran away like 10 times. And when I got out of there, pretty much people were burning their bras and experimenting with LSD, and I became a street kid, I guess you could say. I grew up on Bourbon Street selling underground newspapers, protesting the war, and selling LSD too, and I started getting a criminal record young. And I also grew up during the era where there was drugstore cowboys, the man I was with, they were either going to Mexico and bringing back kilos of weed and ounces of heroin, or robbing drugstores. So for years I had a really heavy-duty supply of drugs, right? And what really brought me to my knees is the police killed my husband. He was one of the drugstore burglaries, and he did a couple of armed robberies. So when the police came, they killed him. They knew he had guns in that room and they knew my kids were in there asleep, and they had been in that apartment earlier, but they still let him go in that room without being handcuffed, So I'm pretty much saying they came here to kill him. And he might have threw down on him, because he always did say he did 9 years in Angola, and I met him his first day home. And I had just did 40 months for the feds from 19 to 23. That's the first time I went to the penitentiary. I was 19. I stayed 40 months. And I got out and I hooked up with this guy who just did 9 years in Angola, and that was the love of my life. He was a criminal, but he treated me like a princess, and he would have literally killed for me. So I never been lived like that since. And but we lived like Bonnie and Clyde. We really did. And it was like the blind leading the blind, right? And then when he died, I never had a job, and I was 29 years old. I had never worked. So a friend of mine gave me a job tending bar, and of course, being the drug addict that I was, alcohol, I become my best customer. And I tended bar for 12 years, and I was like grieving too, teasing your BA action. Got about 100,000 batteries on the police, a lot of overnights. I was on the methadone clinic. I got on the clinic at 23 years old, like I told you, and I stayed on it until I was 50. And drink like 100 milligrams of that medicine every day, and doing coke and heroin over it. And then I've been to St. Gabriel, I've been to Angola, I've been to Lex, Fort Worth, and Alderson, West Virginia. I did like 15 months for the feds. I went when I was 19, and at 20 I went to the parole board. They gave me a 15-month set-off, so I jumped 2 fences, and I was on escape for like 3 months. So then I got another felony charge for escape, and I ended up having a parole from one sentence to the other. And it took me 8 years to do a 6-year sentence, in and out of jail all my life. And it wasn't until I came to the White House, and really the crack is what brought me to my knees, right? The crack brought me to the gutter. That's the worst drug that, to me it's just devil's food. That's the worst drug there is. It wasn't all like killing, like going on now, when people were shooting heroin. I was a heroin addict much longer than a crackhead, but crack is just, it brought me to my knees though, so in a way it was like my saving grace, you know what I'm saying? It made me, I become a dysfunctional addict. I was a functioning drug addict for a long, long time, but when I got on crack, it was horrible. Became homeless, hopeless, and hopeless, like a zombie. And then I got locked up, and that was like I was being rescued over and over all my life. I've been in a lot of bad situations, And all my life I felt less than. And when I first came into this program, that was the hardest thing to do, was to forgive myself for all the terrible things I did to myself, all the hurt, shame, and heartbreak I caused my children, Because you start journaling, you start writing all this down, following the 12-step program, and it's kind of overwhelming, and then you don't feel nothing for hours you're on drugs. You don't feel nothing, you know, right? And then all of a sudden you're sober, and all these feelings and emotions, feelings of not being rejection and hurt and unloved, and I mean, I didn't feel like I had a family that cared about me, so I created my own family on the street, and it wasn't like I made a lot of great choices when I was 13 years old on my own, but you know, I had about 5 girlfriends. We all were street kids. We panhandled for a few years and went and bought, lived on potato sandwiches from Morton Brothers, and we stole orange juice and donuts from the people that delivered at the grocery store. And and that's how I grew up on the street the best I could. And I don't know if I mean, I like getting loaded too. At first it was a lot of fun, you know what I'm saying? I loved it. I still like the feeling. I mean, but I don't like the consequences anymore. So the consequences was a big incentive to quit using, you know. But I could have never quit using without a program like this program, Boy Chops. These ladies were like 4 angels sent from God just for me. I had my own little band of angels, it's true. Because they went through hell and high water to help me, you know, help myself. Because I didn't know. I really, really had a desire to quit using drugs, but I never had a clue. You know, they had to teach me how to feel my feelings, and that feelings will pass, you know, and take suggestions from people. Because obviously, you know, you're lost as a goose. You need to listen or you never learn. When you're on drugs, you're very selfish. You know, you don't think nothing past about the next high. You neglect your children, you neglect your family, you disgrace them, you embarrass them, you put them through hell, you know, you alienate, you lose all your friends because you mess over people, you know, so eventually the pain outweighs the pleasure. I knew I didn't want to lose my kids out of my life forever because, you know, I did, even though after my drug use, I did raise them, but they, you know, they didn't have the greatest life. I mean, my son went to Little League and stuff like that, but they always had an intoxicated mother. I love my kids, I always did love them, and I didn't want to lose them. I mean, and I think that is a big part of me being able to recover too, because a lot of women don't have kids. Their kids just don't want anything to do with them whatsoever. They don't even see their kids, you know. And my kids, man, I got awesome kids now. My son's in the Navy, and when I would see it the first time I relapsed, he bought me these white roses, and he wrote on the cord, "I'm so proud of you, Mom, and remember, fortune favors the brave," you know, and he just inspired me. And yeah, love is my saving grace too, you know. I'm just blessed, believe me. I'm a girl that used to call myself a hope to die, dope fiend, and now I got hope to live through the 12-step program, and mainly because of we found in this program, Boy Chops. Without help and a lot of love, people will never recover. That's the key to recovery to me, is people who really care. Like, you want to be a counselor, that's what it's all about. You know, people that really care about helping somebody and showing them.
Monica, in the interview, Lori talked about some of the reasons that she started using drugs, and one of the reasons was as a way to cope with the pain. What do you think about that?
Well, from my experience, pain is really it's not a motivator. It's like when you've been mistreated from your childhood on up, you've been abused, you feel less than, you try to find something that makes you not feel, you know what I'm saying? So I can understand that a lot, because when I was coming up, you know, I felt less than. I always felt like they love my sister more, and I wasn't part of, you know. So when I started using, I felt like I fit in, you know what I'm saying? And it took away all the pain. All the pain was gone, and I felt a part of something. So I can really relate to that.
So it's almost as a way to numb you, basically, and then it's sort of inclusive, a way to include you into something larger.
Exactly.